Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I'm Tina Jha, you're watching Perspective. The India-UAE partnership received a decisive strategic upgrade during President Sheikh Mohamed bin Zayed Al Nahyan's brief yet high-impact visit to India on Monday. Setting aside formal protocol, Prime Minister Modi personally received President Al Nahyan at the airport, greeting him with a warm embrace, a gesture that reflects the personal rapport between the two leaders. What followed was equally symbolic. The two leaders travelled together in the same car, a rare moment in diplomacy reflecting not just warmth between the two individuals, but the enduring and evolving bond between India and the UAE. A tightly packed 2-hour meeting at the Prime Minister's residence then propelled India-UAE relations into a higher strategic gear. The discussions spanned critical domains: nuclear energy, artificial intelligence, defence, energy security, and also counter-terrorism. Crucially, both countries signed a letter of intent towards a strategic defence partnership, marking a significant step in deepening the security cooperation. So what does this defence upgrade really mean? How will it enhance and expand India-UAE defence collaboration? And how significant is it for India's diversification and strategic autonomy in a rapidly changing global order? These are some crucial aspects we will discuss with distinguished experts joining us on the program. I am delighted to welcome Major General Ashwini Kumar Sivach, retired. He's a defence expert. General, thank you for your time. Welcome to the program. Also pleased to welcome Professor Harsh V. Pant, Vice President, Studies in Foreign Policy, ORF. Dr. Fazur Rahman Siddiqui, Senior Research Fellow, Indian Council of World Affairs. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on the program as well. Welcome to Sansad TV. General Sivach, let's begin the program today with you. So this visit of the UAE President to India was a short one, but highly substantive. While the discussions between the two leaders spanned across a range of areas, the one big highlight and what's being spoken about is the letter of intent towards a strategic defence partnership. Help us and our viewers understand what the current status of India-UAE defence cooperation is, and then you can also explain to us about the changes that a strategic defence partnership will bring about in terms of expanding the scope of cooperation.
You know, Tina, what's happening is the churning effect which is taking place in especially in the South Asia and West Asia has got a lot of impact on this strategic defense partnership, the letter of intent which has been signed between India and the UAE. Remember, very recently, last year itself, there is a defense pact which has been signed between the Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. And now there are also rumors that the Turkey is also likely to join. So therefore, this Troika which is formed, that is Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and Turkey, is a matter of concern not only for India but also for the UAE. The reasons are obvious because of late the UAE and Saudi Arabia are not on the same page. Relation is not up to the best. They are having problem in Yemen. They are having a problem in Sudan because they are on the either side. And now the point which is coming is that since this defense pact which is signed between Pakistan, Saudi, and likely that Turkey will come, will have an adverse impact in the whole region. And therefore, this letter of intent which is signed of strategic defense partnership between India and UAE in that direction. It means that UAE also want a very comprehensive strategic partner in time to come, and so is India wants. Though it is nothing to do with, against anyone, because we have the best of the relation with Saudi also. We have not too good relation with Turkey, and of course we don't have good relation with Pakistan. So this has an important. And second thing is a civil nuclear deal, which is very, very important. Remember that the nuclear energy is a requirement of future, and UAE can really help us. The third thing is the terrorism. Both the countries have condemned the terrorism in all forms and manifestation, indirectly hinting about cross-border terrorism which is emanating from Pakistan. That is also a very, very important thing. Then also a cooperation, coordination in cyberspace. That is again a very important from the point of view the future war will be fought in cyber and in the space arena. And then the joint exercise maritime security and a naval exercise which is likely to be conducted between India and the UAE. Then the joint production of the weapons. Though we are already on manufacturing some small arms weapons, but in future there is a likelihood of more coordination, cooperation, joint production of weapons, which will be beneficial for both the countries. So, Tina, one can say this visit, though short in time, but very high on intent, and lot has been achieved in this 2 to 3 hours of visit, especially from the defense point of view.
Okay, Dr. Siddiqui, let me bring you in here at this point. It's important to understand that India and the UAE already share close defense ties. We do have joint military exercises. We are also part of some groupings which cater to the defense and security aspect. But how significant is going to be this formalization by entering into a strategic defense partnership framework?
See, given the kind of ties India is having with UAE for the last 10 years, it is not surprising. You see, for the last 10 years, Prime Minister Modi has visited UAE 8 times, and UAE President has visited 5 times, 2 times the President, 3 times the President. And the way we have been elevating our ties, the way we have been consolidating, deepening, diversifying, that was to happen. What has aided basically this defense friendship agreement framework? It has aided a new impetus. It has diversified the scope for future, and it has brought these two sides closer. And apart from this, defense tie, there are many other things which we have signed. For example, space industry. We have spoken about, cultural ties. We have spoken about education ties. We have also spoken about, importing this LNG. India is going to be the second and third largest importer of the LNG. So this is such a comprehensive tie that it has taken our relationship one step ahead of the strategic comprehensive partnership. And what will further add to this tie, basically, given the situation and given the turmoil West Asia is witnessing for the last 10 to 15 years, this is going to be very important. When I say this is very important, it doesn't mean that India is going to against any other country, basically. India has maintained good ties with all the countries in the region, from Oman to Qatar to Kuwait to Saudi Arabia and UAE. But I think India and UAE have achieved and received a special focus. Because of both the countries have some commonalities, both the countries are trying to basically, talk some global issues which are common to both sides. For example, fight against terrorism, climate change, global warming, and these things basically. That's why I think India and UAE, this particular occasion will not only elevate the tie, but it will also expand the orbit of our relationship. And this defense agreement, I think this will further bring two countries closer, and it will open the new scope, new vista, a new window for both the countries to come together.
Okay, based on what you've said, let me take across a question to Professor Pant now. Professor, what's been discussed by far is that India and the UAE have certain shared challenges when it comes to facing strategic threats within the region, but also in the extended neighborhood. And that's why expanding the scope of defense cooperation can be described as both a necessity as well as an opportunity for both our countries. But how do you see a well-defined defense partnership framework fitting into the larger architecture, the broader framework of India's West Asia strategy?
Tina, this, I think, in some ways is a fundamental shift we are witnessing in how India is engaging with the region and how the region is engaging with India. We have had for the last decade, I think the government and the leadership of the Prime Minister himself has laid the foundation of India's role in the Middle East, which is quite distinct from our understanding of what it used to be in the past. Right. And that means that now with UAE, there is a level of comfort where we are talking about a defense cooperation agreement framework, which is in itself an extraordinary development because, in the last decade, as was being mentioned, bit by bit, brick by brick, the relationship has been carved between India and the UAE. And I would say India and larger, especially if you think of the Arab states in the Gulf. India has had a very vigorous diplomatic outreach. And in particular with UAE, we have seen an engagement of a level that was very difficult to comprehend a decade back. And the result has been that the UAE in particular has reciprocated. Of course, we have had a change in direction with Saudi Arabia as well. But I think with UAE in particular, we have seen the expanse of the relationship moving beyond just energy and diaspora, which used to be the case. Today, when we talk of doubling over the next 5 to 6 years our trade volume, when we talk of technology and nuclear cooperation, when we talk of education and mobility, when we talk of defense, it shows how singularly these relationships, this particular relationship has evolved, and the comfort level has grown. Now, which means that India is now much more ambitious in defining its regional security and regional partnership agenda, and UAE looks at India as a very important partner, as a partner with whom it can share a relationship that goes beyond diaspora and which goes beyond simple trade volumes. And I think when it comes to defense and strategic partnership, it requires a level of comfort, it requires a level of engagement, because even in economic and trade relationships these days, we talk of political trust as being the most important variable. So you can imagine, when we are talking of defense relationship with UAE, I think there is a comfort level in UAE with India and India with the UAE that has allowed this to happen, which would mean that India and the UAE are willing to take that next step in their relationship, which was already growing, which was already quite expansive, to add another layer to it, and in the context of the geopolitical developments in the Middle East and in the wider world, it makes sense to do that, because partnerships, solid partnerships, reliable partnerships are what's going to drive foreign policy agendas of countries which have similar outlook, which want stability in the region and beyond, which wants predictability and less volatility in the region and beyond. And I think that's what makes this defense agreement special, amongst all the other reasons that have been cited before.
Certainly, and what we are seeing today is that defense is closely linked to technology, to energy security. We do see that the joint statement that the MEA has released following the UAE President's visit to India, it does mention deepening cooperation in both these areas. Professor Pant, explain to us also about the significance of expanding cooperation in areas of AI, emerging technologies, not to forget the nuclear energy and critical infrastructure. How significant do you see it in terms of bolstering and also the future of the India-UAE partnership?
Very significant, and I think in some ways this is the defining agenda of our times. And both countries, UAE and India, which have a laser-like focus today on domestic development. Both of them want the best for their people in terms of economic prosperity, and both of them want to do this at a time of rising expectations and aspirations from their domestic population at a faster pace. So therefore, technology is a driver that is, driving our geopolitical and geoeconomic conversations. So I think the focus in technology is a natural corollary to this aspiration that both nations have, that leaderships in both nations have. And what is significant is that when we are looking at UAE today, UAE for long has relied on a certain kind of an economic framework. Today, it wants to move out of that economic comfort zone. It wants to move out into the 21st century on the agenda items, particularly on technology, so that the level of economic growth can be expedited, so that there are no impediments as UAE it moves away from its traditional approach to economic development, as UAE takes steps with partners like India. And I think in that journey, India is a very important partner. India has already shown the world how a country traditionally of the global south can match when it comes to technology development with our, the achievements that India has had in the last decade on the technology realm, and particularly in a democratizing way. Sharing technology with the wider population. It is not unlike in certain countries in the West in particular, where technology has created a divide. India has tried to bridge the development divide with the use of technology. So I think for a country like UAE, India stands out as an exemplar. and the kind of resources that UAE brings to the table, this partnership becomes very organic. So whether it is AI, quantum, nuclear, space, I think all of these areas are areas where almost all countries today want to be self-reliant. Almost all countries want partnerships with reliable partners. So it's very natural that as they take another step in their developmental journey, they find each other as important partners, and they are expressing this level of trust in each other that is also a significant tribute to the investment that the two sides have made over the last decade in nurturing this partnership.
That's right. General Sivac, the joint statement also speaks of a joint initiative by both countries to commercialize the space sector. How important is this according to you? How do you see this shift, in fact, from collaboration and cooperation in this sector to now co-creating an ecosystem which can benefit us both, but which is also a necessity given our challenges, given the changing global order and the security threats?
Yeah, very correct. See, Tina, one thing is very clear. The country like Saudi, UAE, they were traditionally more focused on the energy sector, and they were exporting, and that is how they were earning money. Now they have also come out from their comfort zone. They want to invest other than the oil sector, and that is where India fits in: the space, the cyber, the artificial intelligence, the quantum technology. Now, as far as India and UAE concerned, we can collaborate and coordinate. See, what UAE brings on the table is a lot of resources, and it has got a lot of investment, and India is a hub center of investment, and there can be a joint manship which can take place between the UAE and India, and especially in cyberspace and also artificial intelligence, and we are expecting that to happen in time to come. Remember, as of today, our trade is about $100 billion. UAE is the third largest trading partner of India, and India exports there is almost about 37 billion, and our 35 to 45 lakhs Indians are also working in the UAE. So UAE is a very important strategic partner, and when we start coordinating, cooperating defense, like we were talking about strategic defense partner, letter of intent and sign, what difference is it going to make in future? Of course, it is going to make a very tremendous impact on that, where both countries will be on the same page. There are a lot of resources, investment the UAE will bring. We will have a joint production of weapon system which are there. They are currently manufacturing small arms, and we are trying to now go into a next phase of that. So therefore, India and UAE, if they are on the same page, not only on the energy sector, we can coordinate and cooperate in all these today, which are the challenging for world. Maybe that tomorrow we will also be investing in drones, which is very important, satellites, which very important to both the countries, and also artificial intelligence, which is a weapon of war in future. So therefore, both these countries are now looking toward each other. And as I mentioned earlier, the churning effect which has taken place in Middle East has also made a tremendous impact, where the Saudi has signed a defense pact with Pakistan and the Turkey coming in between. Now, this visit also has got two other implications. Remember that Board of Peace, where India has been also invited. Now, the UAE is already therein. There may be could have discussed on that issue also. And another very important is that the tension which is going on between the US and Iran, and that point would have been also discussed. Remember, Chabar port, which is there in Iran, is very, very crucial for India, especially our connectivity from Chabar to Afghanistan to Central Asian state, and then joining North-South transport corridor, joining the Eastern Europe and Russia. So that point has also been discussed, because UAE is very close to the US. That issue possibly could have been also discussed. So what happened is that India and UAE are the partner for future. And remember, they have now promised to raise the strategic defense partnership to a very high level. And as far as the trade is concerned, this $100 billion is likely to be doubled by another 5 to 6 years. So from all the sphere, if you see, India-UAE relationship are going from pillar to post. And the issue about terrorism, that is very important. Indirectly, this finger is pointed toward Pakistan, which is a hub center of terrorism, which it says that both the countries basically reject terrorism in all forms and all manifested. It talks about financial action task force also. It says that we respect the Financial Action Task Force, which is against money laundering and terrorist funding. I suppose, Tina, what will happen in future is the relationship between India and UAE are growing stronger day by day. Notwithstanding that, our relation with other countries in Middle East are so equally important, whether it is Saudi Arabia, whether it is Iran, whether it is Israel, or whether it is other Oman, Jordan, Bahrain, we give equal importance. But I suppose India-UAE relation are the one which will make a tremendous impact in future, and especially from the defense point of view.
That's right,
Maritime
General.
security is very important.
That's right, and the manner in which you've explained how beyond defense the India-UAE partnership is shaping the technologies for the future. So we are collaborating in areas like artificial intelligence, emerging technologies, to creating an ecosystem for further space collaborations. And of course, it's grown. You've already comprehensively explained to us how this relationship has evolved over time. You did mention trade, so that brings me to the next question to Dr. Siddiqui on the trade front. We've already crossed $100 billion following the signing of the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement in 2022. Dr. Siddiqui, where has CEPA delivered the most, and now in order to double this trade to $200 billion by 2032, where do you see the potential still being underutilized, and where we should now focus more?
See, the kind of agreement India-UAE has signed, and they have promised to take the trade to 200 billion by 2032, it shows the level of confidence. It shows the level of trust that both countries have. It shows the potential both countries have. So, what's happening basically, India and UAE both are trying to change the template of their relationship in accordance with the changing parameter of the global politics. That's why they are adding new template, they are making new edition. It speaks in volume about the kind of trust both leadership have shown. It is not only about this trade volume, it's also about, LNG import that India will have in the next 10 years. Around India, for that India has invested $3 billion. So there are many aspects to that. What is, I think, most underutilized, I think, given the situation as of now, I think there is no sector which is untouched when it comes to bilateral ties with India-UAE. If you see this particular visit, I think it has talked about, education, it has talked about culture, it has talked about defense, it has talked about investment, it has even talked about, for example, UAE is planning to have the India House in Dubai. India is also trying to develop a kind of heritage foundation where UAE will supply artifacts. So now I think this is must be the most comprehensive partnership, and it will provide a new kind of opportunity to lay down and to further strengthen the ties. I think no sector is untouched where India, UAE has not gone, they have not discussed. And as far as this current situation is concerned, I am of the view, I think the relationship is on the march, I think. Both countries are not, they know they have recognized and they have appreciated and they have acknowledged the potential of each other. That's why that every next visit, we have some addition. For example, if you see the last 10 years, from where India-UAE has begun, we have economic ties, we have investment relationship, then we have strategic competitive partnership. Now their time has come where we have entered into a kind of defense agreement. That will create a new kind of impetus, that will really set a new course of relationship between India and UAE, and that is how I can see the entire situation. That is how I can see the future, prosperous future, a very strong future for India-UAE ties, and that will set an example for other countries in the region, given India's growing military strength, given India's demography, given India's economic advancement for the last 10 years that India has witnessed. And the world has recognized that. Therefore, UAE even recognized that, given the situation, given the global politics, given the unpredictability, given the volatile situation, India is a partner which cannot be overlooked.
Certainly. How does this trade expansion and our growing partnership align with larger regional initiatives is something that we will come in due course and discuss. But Professor, a question related to the trade expansion and perhaps achieving that 200 billion target by 2032. We see that the joint statement places a strong emphasis on MSME to MSME linkages. How critical in that aspect and towards achieving that target are initiatives like the virtual trade trade corridors, the Bharat March, the Bharat-Africa Setu, in expanding trade beyond the large corporates to MSMEs? Do you think in achieving that target of $200 billion by 2032, MSMEs, perhaps also the startups, could be the one area that could be explored?
Yes, of course, Tina. I think it's inevitable that if you have to reach that ambitious target of 200 billion, you will have to raise the bar, and I think it cannot be done under the present structures that are available. We will have to bring in MSMEs. We'll have to bring in the emerging sectors of the economy, and startups. We have to bring in the critical technology sectors, and that's why all of the emphasis that has been given in the joint statement, it has been given to these sectors so that they can be linked with the India-UAE story. And I think now that the two economies are becoming ambitious and are linking more intricately with each other, it's inevitable that it is going to happen. And as UAE looks beyond the energy sector, as India looks beyond energy in its outreach to UAE, there are a range of areas, there are a range of convergences in the economic field that will have to be tapped into, because the structures of the economy, and particularly the UAE economy, is undergoing a transformation. It is no longer the economic model that they had based largely on energy that can sustain itself, and UAE recognizes it. Therefore, they want to link up with the sectors like MSMEs and in India, but also at the same time look at sectors which are more which lead you towards green transition. That ultimately, if you want to move away from fossil fuel based energy, then you have to also look at nuclear. You'll also have to look at other sources of energy, and I think there the synergies between India and the UAE will continue to grow, because ultimately that's what is going to deliver what is the ambitious agenda on the economic front. And I think this is what this joint statement talks about, very, very forward looking and in a very forthright manner, because it also tells you the vulnerabilities that still exist, that unless we link these sectors to each other with each other's economies, we are not going to fulfill, or we are not going to reach the full potential of this relationship. So I think recognizing them in time and recognizing them fully has been done, and now it is up to the bureaucracies and other stakeholders how they take it forward.
Since you mentioned the vulnerability, that takes me to the next question, Mr. Siddiqui. We are aware of the global disruptions, also the volatilities in this region. To ensure the kind of trade growth in order to achieve the ambitious target, what is it that India and the UAE can do to ensure the manner in which we have expanded our cooperation in various areas? It indicates that the focus is on the quality and not just the quantity of trade, but we need to ensure that this trade growth remains risks free. We need to make it shock resistant given the volatility and the complexities in the region, in the geopolitics. Please unmute, Dr. Siddiqui.
The biggest challenge to our economic tide is the security challenge. And for the last 1.5 decades, the region is passing through a volatile situation. We have witnessed how there was a time when India and all the countries involved in IMEC, they were a bit disappointed what would happen to them, but somehow things have come back on the track. So now we have to basically see how the region becomes free of terrorism. There is no threat to navigation. There is no threat to our oil supply. There is no threat to our shipment. And that is the biggest challenge. You see the way Houthis have disturbed the Red Sea transportation. What has seen for the last 1 year almost, I think, it has affected our chain supply. It has affected our movement. So now that we have to tackle, before we are going for the economic tide, we have to focus more and more how we can tackle the situation arising in the region, how we can handle the security situation, how we can confront the terrorism, how can we confront the militia, how can we confront non-state actors who think inflicting economic damage can really bring them some dividend. That is the basic challenge for both the countries, and both countries are quite serious. UAE is fighting its own war. India has always raised the issue on the various global forum. And I think the world now has started listening that, from America to Europe to South Asia to West Asia. So that's why I think both countries are really genuinely working on that. and they realize, they have this acceptance, they have this realization that if we have not been able to tackle the security situation, we cannot move forward. Our economic planning, our economic, the kind of framework we have fixed, that will not be able to be fulfilled. That's why both sides have to come together to tackle this terrorism, emitting from different states, emitting from different landscape and different geography. And West Asia has been fighting this. South Asia has been the biggest victim of the terrorism. So that's why I think both sides will take note of that.
We do have shared objectives when it comes to tackling shared challenges, and that's what our enhancing of cooperation across a range of areas reflects. Time allows us to take up only that much on the program, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us with your insights, and thank you to you viewers as well for your time.
संसद टीवी के और भी प्रोग्राम्स देखने के लिए सब्सक्राइब करें हमारा यूट्यूब चैनल और हाँ, इन्हें लाइक और शेयर करना ना भूलें।